I'm Roger from Evannex. In this video, we're going to be talking about the installation of one of our Evannex vinyl kits. We have vinyl kits that focus on both the exterior and interior of Model 3. Our intent, of course, is to allow you to improve the look of the car and make it your own. Before we begin our installation work, it's important that you have the household tools that you'll need to get the job done. Preparation is critical, and it's very important that you prepare the surface before you try to apply your vinyl kit. We're going to install a vinyl kit for the center console. The vinyl kit comes in 3 pieces. One piece that covers the door for the charging area for smartphone charging. Another that covers the area where we have storage. And a third which covers the cup holder area. We'll begin with the piece that covers the door for the smartphone charging. So let's get started with that. The way we begin is by aligning the piece, and you'll note that it's been designed so that it will wrap over the door so it looks finished even when the door is up. In order to do that, we have to kind of find the edge, and the way we do that is simply to very carefully use these marks here and here to find the edge. Press down on the door and it pops right up. Now, once we do that, we have to work towards smoothing the door to a nice, smooth, bubble-free, wrinkle-free surface. As we work upward, we can use the squeegee to smooth the vinyl as we go, pushing upward and toward the edges. In every case, just being certain we eliminate bubbles and any other artifact. For example, there's a bubble. There's a couple of different ways to eliminate it, but one of the easiest ways is simply pulling the vinyl up and then working it down to eliminate the bubble. Oops, this one's fighting back. We go like this. Now, this will take a couple of iterations. That's perfectly okay. As I mentioned earlier, the application of vinyl requires patience. We worked out most of the bubbles with the squeegee. One way to help us work now is to push this door back. And as we open this door, you'll note that we can now roll over the front edge so that it looks fully covered as we open the door. We work this way and this way, smoothing and shaping the vinyl as we go. Now, if we need a little bit of pliability, and sometimes you do when you're working in an area like this, we can take a simple hair dryer to heat the vinyl just a little bit. It makes it more pliable, allows it to edge better, and ultimately give you a better overall finish. But even here you can see we begin to get a very nice clean finish. Then on the edges we fold over, as you can see here, again giving us a full coverage across the side edge. Now note that the fold ends where the pivot occurs, and that's purposeful. The reason for that is simply so that we don't get into trouble in opening and closing the door. Now we do exactly the same thing on this side, folding over the edge. Up at the top, we smooth the finish in, and then use our squeegee to finish off the edges here and here. We now have our top piece fully assembled and ready to go. We're now ready to install the storage door area of the center console. You'll note we've already laid the vinyl for the smartphone charging area. We're going to pop that up so that it's out of the way. We then take our vinyl, being sure that everything is cleaned, and we align it directly to the edge. Our goal here is to pretty much butt the edge, as you can see here, so that we can roll it over with our squeegee, then working upward, and we can just use our finger for this or a squeegee, but I happen to like my finger, being sure that we get rid of all bubbles. The hardest part of this is literally to be sure that we get rid of all the bubbles, and also to be sure we don't wrinkle as we go. Now, we're going to tilt this door a little bit now because we want to do a wrap over. So we're going to wrap over on the top, again, to give us a full look. We smooth going up before we complete our wrap over to be sure that we have not trapped air bubbles under the vinyl. As you can see it right here. Wrap over in this direction so that we have a very nice look on the top. Again, a solid vinyl look, not like a cheesy surface look. And then we wrap over the sides. You'll note this has been specifically designed to accommodate the pivot so that we won't have a problem when the door pivots upward. We certainly don't want it to get caught. We then wrap over the other side, same way. Now we're going to close the door, heat the edges, and as you can see, we've encountered some air bubbles, so we're going to work those out. That's very common. It's not at all unusual. Going to work those out of the vinyl. And we still have to smooth the edges, but first we have to get those air bubbles out. Now we're going to get our squeegee to finish the job, so let's do that. We now take our squeegee and very simply smooth the surface until it's air bubble and wrinkle free. And now we're going to work the squeegee down into the edges between the trim and the door. The second door of our center console is now complete. We begin the installation of vinyl in the cup holder area by focusing on two anchor points, as it were, places where we really do need to align carefully. That is this front edge along the interior of the cup holder on top of the aluminum trim, and the back edge, same thing, along the aluminum trim. If we can align our vinyl properly in that area, then we will have good success in doing a proper installation. We have to be very careful that it's centered and that it just butts up against the trim, as you can see here. We don't have to worry about anything else at this point. Our first goal is to get those two edges properly aligned. But once we do, we're in good shape moving forward. Now we simply begin to smooth out away from those two edges, here and here, being sure that there are no bubbles, as we always are. Now, one way that we can improve things and make it a little bit easier to work is by heating the vinyl in this area. So we can take our hairdryer and in fact do exactly that. I would recommend the hairdryer on a low setting just to make these surfaces a little more pliable and easier to work with. Once we do that, we continue our work around the edge until we have solid placement of the vinyl along the appropriate edges. At the same time we smooth the edge, looking at this side, we also be sure that the edge along the outside longitudinal trim piece is properly abutted, and that's what I'm doing here. And then slowly we move toward the front. At this point we can open the storage door just to give ourselves a little more room to work. We can use either our finger or alternatively the squeegee, being sure that we eliminate air bubbles as we go and wrinkles as we go. This is a critically important area, so we want to be sure we get it right. Now we're going to begin working on the inside, or I should say passenger side portion. I'm going to pull this up, make sure that this piece abuts the trim nicely, as it correctly does, moving it along the trim piece. Again, we can use our hair dryer to soften the vinyl a little bit, make it slightly more pliable so we can work it toward the rear of the car. Hair dryer on the low setting. And then we just again work to smooth the vinyl, moving backward as we go. Making sure that if we do encounter any wrinkles, we get rid of them immediately. Smoothing outward and away toward the edges on all sides. And here we see ourselves moving away. We'll now begin to bring our squeegee into play, smoothing outward as we go. There are, as you can see, still some air bubbles, so we'll work hard to get rid of those. Moving toward the back and toward the rear as we go. When we encounter an air bubble, we simply pull up and smooth gently outward until that bubble disappears. Here we have, we're closing in on the finish for the top surface. Once the top surface is smooth, it's now time to focus on the top edge, where we wrap under, pushing forward and wrapping under. As you can see here, I'll use only my left hand so you'll be better able to see it. Smoothing as we go, making sure there are no wrinkles or other situations that may create problems. We can pick up the door, make sure it opens smoothly. It does. Smoothing this surface as we go. And then closing down the back surface. You can see here I'll again work only with my left hand, so that, and I'm a righty, so that you can kind of take a look at how we wrap over. We then use our squeegee to finish the edges. Now, one way to do that is simply to pull out the trim just a little bit. It's not going to hurt anything. And just wedge this squeegee in there to close the gap and round the edges. This works very, very nicely. Just pull that out a little bit, push it in there, boom, boom, and you're done. And then in the back, perform the same operation so that we have a smooth edge and finish. And we now have a completed cup holder surface.